We are here! I made you laugh. So we're in... Based on what we know now, the culprit is. We just don't know. But I know you had some... There's a crossbow there at the scene of the last recording, so if...
Right or completely wrong.
Yeah. Or go a little further in this. I look forward to it. Let's see. Yes. 9:14 p.m. That seems like the time we finished. Halloween? But it's so much later now. At the heart of this incident is technology never before demonstrated anywhere in the world. One of science's latest developments, I take it? The government is keen to capitalize on the Great Exhibition to improve Britain's technological advantage. The technology being demonstrated by the accused was described as super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. Good lord! Every time he does that, his hair, it's just his little wig or whatever. It's designed to disassemble human subjects using extremely high voltage electricity, and beam them instantly to another location where they are subsequently reassembled. Is such a thing even within the realms of possibility? No. Well, I don't believe it, that's for sure. Disassembling people with electricity? My goodness, how shocking. Ha! The whole idea is absurd. The hypothesis would never stand up to scrutiny.
Wouldn't the magician believe it?
Well, I think he knows how fake a lot of things are, so... Like, his stuff, he knows wouldn't stand up to scrutiny.
Not the one that was just talking, but the one before him.
I don't know. I don't know. Hold on one sec, this is actually important.
Does the guy you're talking to now looks like a scientist?
Sir, I believe you are a fellow of the Royal Society, are you not? An expert in your field? I am, and my word on the matter can be considered final. Instantaneous kinesis is poppycock. So this expert and Mr. Sholmes are in agreement. It's impossible. What is the prosecution's view on the matter? The prosecution would assert that the accused's instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a success. What? What rot? Order, order. The professor's hypothesis is currently under investigation by the British government. If it is deemed to have merit, a substantial research grant would be made available. The accused made use of the invention built on his new hypothesis to take Mr. Asmon's life, in order to be the sole benefactor of the grant. But... This disastrous demonstration was no accident. It was carefully designed from the outset to end the life of the victim. And this is his friend that he's accusing this of.
Right.
Thank you, Lord Von Zieks. The prosecution's stance is clear. But you will now bring forth witnesses to substantiate your claims. Gladly, my lord. Bailiff, show the first witnesses to the stand. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective in Side Division. I was on duty at the demonstration on the day in question and in charge of the following investigation. Albert Harebrain, scientist. You were born in England but have been carrying out research in Germany in recent years, correct? Yes, that's right. After graduating from university here in Britain, I went to work in Germany and made an amazing discovery, which is what brought me back. I had to demonstrate my incredible hypothesis at the Great Exhibition. What you demonstrated was incredible, all right, an incredible explosion. But the science was a success. The instantaneous kinesis worked. Everyone saw it. They must have done. Yes, there was a terrible accident, but the demonstration of my hypothesis was a success. Well, that much is undeniable, as shown in this photograph taken by the forensic investigation team. Is that a bullet wound?
Maybe it's the crossbow.
This was taken inside the Crystal Tower, I take it? The centerpiece of the exhibition, no less. That's right, my lord. Seems the victim rammed straight into it. I see. Very well. Submit the photograph as evidence.
I'd like to look at that.
Yeah. It shows an apparent stab wound to the chest, so they do make note of it. As the courts heard, the victim of the incident was Mr. Odiasum. I keep pronouncing it because I keep thinking it's some kind of pun. Okay. There must have been a number of allegations made against the man, but putting them aside for the time being, he was the man who financed the research for the experiment and the demonstration itself. I see, so to summarize the situation, the defendant is accused of taking the life of the man who funded his work. Would that be correct? Exactly. But couldn't it be that the explosion was caused by some malfunction in the apparatus used for the demonstration? That's right, that must be it. My splendid machine. My poor, splendid machine. You saw it yesterday, didn't you? We can't even examine the wreckage thanks to the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. What? The wreckage? The wreckage? But that being the case, how can the facts be established? How can it be possibly determined whether this was an accident or a deliberate and malicious act? Extremely simply, my lord. I beg your pardon. Isn't that right? Witness? What? Sorry, me? No, your neighbor. Yes, sir, it was murder, plain and simple. Anyone could state that with complete certainty. What? How could he possibly think that? Thank you, Inspector. I think we had better proceed to formal testimony. You will explain to the court on what grounds you claim this experiment to have been a front for murder.
He's got his fish and chips there.
Yes, he does. He's ready to go. The corpse that went crashing through the Crystal Tower had a broken neck. I made a minor miscalculation in the angle of the beam projection, that's all. That was my mistake. But the post-mortem examination revealed another injury, a fatal wound. There was a lesion in his chest where he'd clearly been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. So the victim was killed before he went anywhere, and this fella's the only one who could have done it. Okay, that makes sense as why they think it's murder. An extraordinary business. In addition to suffering a broken neck, the victim was stabbed in the heart. Information I would really like to have heard from someone other than the judge. The coroner says death would have... You could say, in fact, the victim was killed twice by the accused. No, no, and no, that couldn't be further from the truth. I have here the experiment plan document that was submitted to the security team. The victim stood himself inside something called the birdcage, ready to be beamed instantly to the second level of the Crystal Tower about 25 yards away. The experiment did not go according to plan, however. As the machine was put into operation, there was a large explosion. The blast caused the beam transmitter to point higher than intended. Accordingly, the kinesis resulted in the birdcage materializing in midair, from where it subsequently fell, crashing through the glass of the Crystal Tower's large round window. My word, one assumes the victim's neck was broken upon impact with the tower then. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen. The machine was just too powerful. But honestly, really, I swear it was just an accident, a terrible accident. Unfortunately, that excuse can't save you. No, not considering the sharp murder weapon that pierced the victim's heart. Murder weapon? What are you saying? This is the autopsy report submitted by the coroner. The prosecution would like it entered into the court record. Your request is granted, counsel. I was there in person, you know. I saw the whole ludicrous performance. The only other person on the stage with Mr. Aspen was that disgraceful excuse for a scientist. Then really, by all accounts, it must have been him. Hard to think otherwise, really. Very well, counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination, please. Oh, yes, my lord. I need to focus here. Yeah, he doesn't have anyone with him. It's been a while. The corpse that went crashing through the Crystal Tower had a broken neck. Well, let's take a look at the autopsy report first. Oh, whoops. Wrong one button. Are you suggesting that's because he fell from a considerable height? Exactly, which highlights something else about this whole rum business. What's that? The fact that the instantaneous kinesis itself was a success. Ah. After the explosion, the cage with the fella inside suddenly appeared out of nowhere in midair. So although the experiment ended in disaster, the so-called instantaneous kinesis did actually occur. Remind us, Professor, what was the cause of the fatal disaster? I know that... Now, we know that Sholmes and Iris said it's impossible, it cannot be done whatsoever.
Right.
Right. 47 British. Hemorrhage of a wound to the chest that pierced the heart inflicted by a sharp implement. Additional observations. A broken vertebra, most likely resulting from impact after a sudden fall from considerable height.
Is the time correct on the death? This is 2:20, but what time did the incident happen? Or is that not even disputable, I guess?
Yeah, I don't see anything about,
Where's the newspaper article about this?
Well, this is a newspaper article, but it's not about this.
Oh, it's about the Reaper.
Yeah, the Reaper. Oh, whoops.
You bad with your hands.
I know.
Hold it! Hold it!
So the angle of projection is critical, is it? And you calculated it yourself personally. Absolutely, the calculation is far too complicated for anyone but me to carry out. Only you got it wrong, didn't you? Yes, that's right, that's the point. The calculation is so complicated, even I can make a mistake. Do people fall for that brazen confidence? I should try it. I took into account the subject's height and weight, the wind direction, the ambient temperature. I considered every possible variable, so I just don't understand how this could have happened. I feel like we got a lot of excitable people on the witness stand in this game. Like part 2, like the reporter, and what's the Shamsphere, and now Hairbrain. High on sugar. Obviously then you had to include the weight of the clothes Mr. Aspen was wearing at the time, I suppose. Ah, wow, that was fast. Crackling comets, the answer should have been 3! So much for safety first, 3 must be for safety third. Let's press him on what it was. The defense knew nothing of this crucial information. The prosecution received this report from the forensic investigation team only this morning. This was the first we knew of it as well. I can only apologize for the impossibility of informing the defense. Sarcastic and insincere. Thanks. So, what was the nature of the sharp object? Among the accused tools that were in use at the demonstration, one is of particular interest. This. Ah, yes, that would appear to be some kind of... ha, there he is! Some kind of screwdriver. My trusty little companion, Andrew. Andrew, of course. Ah, do you know each other already? He's one of my dear friends, like all my tools. I've named them all, you know. We're one big happy family. Andrew is my flathead screwdriver, of course. His brother Michael is a crosshead. Well, it would appear that your beloved Andrew has a red stain on his shank. Ah, that isn't... It's blood, beyond all reasonable doubt. No! And that's not all. The long, sharp shape of this Andrew fellow is completely consistent with the victim's wound. What? Order, order. The court will enter this friend of the defendant as evidence. So one of Professor Harebrain's tools is the murder weapon. Great. You know what this means? Investigate the weapon. I've seen this unusually shaped handle before. It's the same screwdriver that was machine, which could be important information, so I should definitely make a note of it. This is blood. Mr. Aspen's, no doubt. This is the problem with looking at murder weapons.
Hold it!
What grounds do you have for saying that? Ha! Do you really need to ask? There were only 2 people on that public experimentation stage in front of the whole crowd. The victim, Mr. Odie Asman, and the accused, Professor Harebrain. And we know for certain that before the experiment, the victim was alive. That's right, I saw him with my own eyes. Furthermore, following the explosion and kinesis, nobody went anywhere near the body. In other words, only someone else on stage with the victim could possibly have done it.
Excuse me!
Professor Harebrain, do you have some information that may be relevant here? Professor? Ah, sorry. I was just calculating the optimum coefficient of electrolysis to separate molecules in the human body. And the witness stand is the best place for that. It seemed as though you might have something to say about Inspector Gregson's last remark. Yes. Yes, that's right, of course. He just said that nobody else could have done it, didn't he? Yeah, that's right. Who else could have stabbed the victim, eh? I don't know, but there's no way that I could possibly have stabbed Mr. Asman, as you say. Eh? Explain, please, Professor. Of course, this cold-hearted policeman may not be aware, I suppose. But humans are warm-blooded mammals with blood running continuously through their veins. I had heard. Then surely, you see, if I'd plunged something the size of Andrew into the man's chest, the whole stage would have been a bloodbath. No, a blood-swimming pool. Ah. But thousands of Londoners were watching me at the time. And yet not one of them claims to have seen a swimming pool of blood. Well, no, I suppose not. You see, not one. True, I didn't see anything like that. Well done, Professor. That was a great counter-argument. Okay, now what's Fonzie's gonna do? Order, order. Yeah, of course. Pray forgive the discourtesy if I savor a drop from my hollow chalice to accompany my old friend's adducing. Here's to you, Albert. Oh, you're too kind, Barack. But I'm really not a patch on you. No, you're not. No? You've neglected to mention one crucial possibility. I have? A particular situation in which very little bleeding would have resulted from a stab wound. Ah, of course. Inspector, enlighten the court, please. Yes, sir. Where are they going with this? Very well, you will amend your formal testimony now, Inspector Gregson. The weapon the victim was stabbed with must have been left in his body whilst he was beamed through the air.
But where did they find the weapon?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you look at the picture, there's no screwdriver. Ah,
And where did they find it?
I don't know. I almost want to present the picture right away. Because, I mean, maybe we're supposed to press first, but I feel like I don't see anything.
No.
Objection!
Oh, shoot. And I would have to overrule your objection.
Maybe you have to press him first.
Yeah. Sometimes. You see, I dig the script to these games. The only thing I wish they would add to a future Ace game is kind of like permutations, like where you could do that, but if you haven't proved it yet, kind of thing. Like with the jury, you kind of have that, where sometimes you know you can get to the right place, but you don't have the evidence yet. I wish they would add a little more of that.
Hold it! Hold it!
Why would you think that, Inspector? With any wound, it's only when you pull the weapon out that profuse bleeding occurs. Whilst it's still lodged in the body, it acts as a stopper of sorts, for want of a better word. I see. You don't need a medical degree to be aware of this fact. It's common knowledge for any investigator. Where's Chisato-san when you need her? If you ask me, this bloke masked what he was doing from view with his body before stabbing Aspen in the chest. Then he beamed the victim off the stage with his fancy device, the screwdriver still where he planted it. I would never do such a thing, not so much precious tools. I would never use them for such dirty work. You only use tools for their intended purposes. That's common knowledge for any scientist. The fact remains a lack of blood on the scene can easily be explained, as the prosecution has demonstrated. So that's all the testimony I have to work with.
So it's the picture, but I think you...
I know the victim had been stabbed, that changes everything. Von Zeeks will keep that to himself until now on purpose to gain the advantage? Well, I suppose all I can do is press these witnesses for as much new information. Well, let's press him on... thing we didn't press him on.
Hold it! Hold it!
Another fatal injury, you say? That doesn't make any sense. I didn't think I'd have to spell this out, but here we go. Just because there were 2 fatal wounds doesn't mean I'm saying the victim had 2 lives to lose, does it? Too right. Obviously, at first, we thought the bloke had died due to his spine snapping in half as well. But you're saying that's not the case. You'll get your answer once I finish my fish and chips if you don't keep butting in every few seconds. We all know that's a bottomless bag. The victim plummeted 30 feet into a glass tower. It would be reasonable to assume that as the cause of death. Right, that's what we all thought, but it was a red herring, wasn't it? Let me see. Nothing to investigate? Oh. There's some sort of lever here. Oh, I think we did do this. We just did with Iris. What is this? It looks like... think it's probably used for the same thing, too. This groove here must be where the arrows are loaded, I suppose. So I was right, it's a sort of bow with an automatic firing mechanism, which would be perfect for someone like me who catches a zero with the bowstring 2 times out of 3. In fact, if I had one of these, maybe I could have beaten Kazuma in Kyoto archery training. Oh, well, there we go. It was found poking through the grill in the base of what remains of the kinesis machine. So it can't have been left in his body while it was beaming through the air.
Objection!
You say that while the weapon remains in the body, there's very little bleeding. Is that unequivocal? Look, there was no blood in the experimentation stage, even though that's where the fellow was stabbed. The only explanation for that is if the screwdriver was still in his body, stopping any heavy bleeding. It's common medical knowledge, my learned friend, even on your side of the world. Yes, but about this screwdriver. The thing is, we actually saw it at the scene ourselves, on the experimentation stage. What? It was on the floor by the wreckage of the machine, poking through a metal grill. I went to pick it up, but the detective here stopped me. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson? Now you come to mention it, yes. Inspector, are we to understand that you permitted the defense counsel to investigate? That you contravened the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act? No, not at all. I wouldn't do that. I just let him look, nothing more. I was very clear he wasn't to touch a thing. Yes, that's true. The screwdriver was in plain sight on the stage. But it shouldn't have been, should it? What are you getting at? If this tool had still been in the victim's body when the victim was beamed away by the machine, then it shouldn't have still been on the stage. Ah. That's right, it should have been beamed across to the Crystal Tower along with Mr. Asman, and been found still lodged in the victim's chest. Order. How do you explain this, Inspector? I don't... It looks as though everything that the victim had on his person moved with him when he was beamed. If the screwdriver was still in his chest when the instantaneous kinesis occurred, obviously that should have been beamed to the destination as well. This is a strange situation. Even though people are saying that this instantaneous kinesis is a scientific impossibility, we're still basing arguments on the assumption that it actually did take place. Alright, time to tighten the screws here. My lord, the prosecution is unable to explain this inconsistency in its argument. We can only conclude that testimony given in support cannot be relied upon. Ooh, look at that glare. That usually comes later in the case. Lord Von Zieg's stumped.
What's that?
Oh, I think that's the, our witness, or really our client. Do you have something to say, witness? I have a terrible feeling he's going to give some scientific explanation as to why and, bury himself. He has no reason to object. Yes, I knew it. It bears out. The equations hold. Mr. Naruhodo, don't worry. Oh, what? Without delving into the details, there is no inconsistency. What? Even if Angie had been lodged in Mr. Asman's chest, my trusty tool wouldn't have moved. Angie remaining on the stage is consistent with my calculations. What? That's why I knew he was gonna do that! It would seem your illusions have been shattered. Clearly, we should hear the accused's explanation. Or should I say, this brilliant scientist's explanation? Just when I'd found an inconsistency in the prosecution's argument. Scientists. Very well, the defendant will testify again. Provide us with the scientific explanation as to why the inconsistency asserted by the defense fails to hold. In the name of Apollo, I will, my lord. To be clear, I'm still at the stage of gathering data in my research. My hypothesis states the Kinesis cannot transport metal, though, hence the metal weapon would have stayed put. In other words, the point just raised by Mr. Naruhodo isn't an inconsistency at all. Mr. Aspen was the patron of my research. Without him, my work wouldn't have been possible. Now I have a duty to protect the incredible machine that we built together. So, the thrust of your testimony, Professor, is that based upon his hypothesis, metal objects cannot be moved by this method of instantaneous kinesis. In other words, since a screwdriver is made of metal, even if it remained lodged in the victim's chest, its subsequent discovery on the stage, despite the victim being found elsewhere, is not an inconsistency. And therefore, Professor Albert Harebrained could still have been the killer. My great hypothesis holds, you see. We had to make the cage used to contain the subject from wood for that very reason. I was not addressing you, witness. Professor Harebrained. Yes? Whose side are you on? I don't take sides, Mr. Naruhodo. No. My only interest lies in upholding my hypothesis. I'm a scientist, after all. Is he working for us or against us? It's very hard to tell. Let's see how you cross-examine this testimony, my Nipponese friend. Yes, fire away, Mr. Naruhodo.
Aren't his eyeglasses made of metal? The guy who got transported, supposedly?
Is it?
Did he have eyeglasses on?
I mean, I think, but I don't think we've ever heard what the material is.
Isn't that metal on his face right there?
Is it? Is that made of metal?
Yeah, the nose piece. The other stuff is glass.
Well, hold up.
Hold it!
And yet your report to my argument wasn't lacking in confidence in any way. No scientist can find the truth without first finding self-belief. Those were the words of a certain scientist I hold in the very highest esteem. But you realize that disproving my argument puts you in a very precarious position, don't you? No scientist would strive to protect himself more than he strives to protect the truth. More words of the same great scientist, you know. Words that are causing me a lot of trouble. Who is this scientist? I'm afraid I couldn't tell you, Mr. Naruhodo. But as soon as I remember the magnificent genius's name, you'll be the first to know. It might be worth keeping the names of your idols to mind. You're wasting your breath, my learned friend. This scatterbrain even forgets my name at times. So Lord Von Zieks really did have a friend once, but I didn't notice hell freezing over.
Hold it!
Your hypothesis states it, so this isn't proven then. No, of course not. It's merely a hypothesis, but a good one based upon thousands of calculations. But it is widely known that metals can't be decomposed by electrolysis. Yes, of course, so I am right. My hypothesis is clearly correct. What is it about incriminating himself that makes this man so happy? It's the whole reason that the birdcage is made of wood, you see. Sorry, the birdcage? Yes, that's what I call the C. obtusa cage in which Mr. Aspen was placed for the kinesis. Ah, the jail cell in which the victim was detained. It does indeed seem to be made of timber of some sort. I'll thank you not to refer to it as an instrument of incarceration, your lordship. In the victim, when he was beamed away by instantaneous kinesis, would have been left on the stage if it was made of metal, correct? Yes, that's it. Yes, it all fits perfectly with the mathematical model. But the ultimate conclusion, then, is that the defendant alone had the opportunity to inflict this fatal injury on the victim, is it not? Ah, indeed, sir. Someone beam me out of this nightmare.
Hold it! Hold it!
You seem to be pleased by that. Yes, another example of my hypothesis holding true. But I sense some sarcasm, Mr. Naruhodo. Are you not pleased? No. I knew it. At the end of the day, I'm the one responsible for Mr. Aspen losing his life. The advancement of science is no excuse, I know that. No, you're quite right. Tell the court, did you have a close relationship with Mr. Aspen? Oh, well, no, not really. I mean, I only met him 2 or 3 times. We only ever discussed my hypothesis and the project and the research grant, of course.
Hold it! Hold it!
How did you come to know Mr. Aspen in the first place? A year ago now, a small provincial science journal published a little paper about my work. That's a scientific journal? Good gracious, I should need new spectacles. I might have an extraordinary hypothesis and great promise, but at the time I had no money. There really is a small paper. What the... I had to eat tiny little meals at a tiny little cafe and drink watered-down water out of a tiny little glass. What's watered-down water? But Mr. Aspen read the paper and came to visit me at my tiny little laboratory. And offered you money to help fund your work. Exactly. That's exactly what happened. I handled the theoretical side of things, and Mr. Aspen provided me with an engineer for the practical. And the 3 of us produced that fantastic machine together. The machine that you brought to the great exhibition to demonstrate. He had, Mr. Aspen provided him with an engineer for the practical.
See, we need to talk to this engineer.
Yes.
He had mentioned the engineer before.
Yeah. We had to apply to the government for some sort of inspection to be allowed to exhibit, I think. I didn't understand all that side of things. Mr. Aspen took care of all of it. He was a wonderful man. Really, I owe everything. I owe him everything.
Hold it! Hold it!
When you said that you built the machine together, does that mean you were involved in its construction? Yes. Well, not exactly. I'm not good with the practical side of machines myself, so the physical construction was done by an engineer. Little remains of your creation now, though, following the explosion. Repair will no doubt be impossible. Yes. Yes, I realize that, but still. If someone were to gather all the broken parts, they could discover the secret of my hypothesis. Mr. Aspen and I toiled over that machine for so long. We put our hearts and souls into it. I have to protect our work. So what's left of the machine must be kept safe. That's only fair, because what happened was an accident. That's the extent of the testimony then, thank goodness for that. I don't want him doing any more damage. He's already basically proven that he could have been the culprit. But it seems as though all he really cares about is defending his hypothesis. Still, I wonder, what if his hypothesis is just fundamentally flawed? So, why don't we go with what you think? Metal Elf will stay put. I'm thinking if you're onto something with the glasses, it would be this.
But did we present the picture already, or did we present...
No, we did the screwdriver. The picture
Okay.
was the one that wasn't what worked.
Okay.
Let's see.
Objection!
Professor Harebrain, you said that according to your hypothesis, nothing made of metal can be beamed by instantaneous kinesis using the machine you made. Is that right? Yes, that's right. Spot on. Exactly correct. In that case, I'd ask you to have a look at this photograph that was taken at the scene. In particular, I'd like you to pay attention to the victim's face. You can clearly see that Mr. Aspen is wearing a pair of spectacles with a metal rim. What? Metal? No, metal can't... That's not... metal? No! We've already established that the proposed murder weapon, the screwdriver, was found on the stage. However, if your hypothesis correctly predicted that outcome, it should have also predicted that the metal-rimmed spectacles would be found in the same place. Ah, my hypothesis! My hypothesis! Professor Harebrained, this isn't easy for me to say, but your hypothesis is clearly flawed. Whoa!
Flawed.
Hey, where did Gregson go?
I don't know.
Order, order, order. Well, actually, he was by himself for this testimony, so he must have stepped aside then. What is the implication of this? If, on the day in question, the alleged instantaneous kinesis never actually took place, then it's entirely impossible that the victim was killed somewhere other than on the stage. And in that case, someone other than the defendant could have been the culprit. But my hypothesis is sound. I proved it that day. The experiment was a success. The experiment was proof of all my work. If I could say something here in my capacity as a fellow of the Royal Society... Yes, juror number 4, go ahead. As a man of science, there's one thing I simply cannot abide. And that's a fraud who pretends to be a fellow man of science. What? Wait, great Scott! Are you suggesting my science is suspect? It's just been disproved, hasn't it? In front of all of us. In other words, the whole demonstration was complete nonsense from start to finish. Believe me, my fellow jurors, when I tell you that this man is a heel, a bounder, and a fraud. I say the record of that machine should be stripped down and thoroughly examined. No, never! That machine is the essence of my entire hypothesis. It's protected by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. What the devil is this blasted act all about, eh? Who made up such a daft rule? I don't like the way this seems to be going. What's the best way for me to help the professor?
We raised an objection.
Yeah.
Objection!
Professor Harebrained has yet to perfect his invention. That would seem to be the case, yes. But even so what? Going to such trouble and expense to create a fake machine to display in public? He would have absolutely no reason to do such a thing. He had an obvious reason to do exactly that. For the research grant money. Ah. If the government was foolish enough to have deemed the man's ridiculous notion plausible, he and his conspirators would have received a handsome sum indeed. Conspirators? What would be the value of such a grant? 10 pounds? You're an order of magnitude out, madame. 500 pounds a year. Oh, Ara! You can live and some for that much for years. The Society's noticed an increase in bogus public demonstrations in the field of science recently. Plenty of scientists arguing with each other to get the largest slice of this funding cake. People's greed is plenty motive enough for murder, I assure you. No, I haven't deceived anyone, least of all the government. My hypothesis is sound, the science is sound. Please, you must believe me. No matter how unbelievable this hypothesis may seem to you, ladies and gentlemen, the fact remains that the victim was transported instantly to the Crystal Tower. Which means that the experiment was a success. Ah, Baroque. And therefore, the only person who could possibly have committed this murder is the accused. Ah. Why does he have like a spot on his head?
I don't know.
Ah, Baroque. Where is this headache? I have no idea. My lord, if I may. Yes, Lord Von Zieks. The prosecution would like to summon new witnesses to the stand. New witnesses? And what would be the nature of their involvement? They were spectators of the demonstration at the exhibition who were occupying special seats. Eyewitnesses? Very well, that grants the prosecution's request. There was no posh? The accused killed the financier victim there on the public stage before the very eyes of the spectators. Now, my learned friend. Oh, yes. It's time for you to make your own stands clear. There's clearly a flaw in the professor's hypothesis, I can definitely see that. But where does that leave me? We shall take a short recess now, during which time the prosecution will prepare its new witnesses to take the stand. As you wish, my lord. Good, in that case, court is adjourned for 20 minutes. Dun, 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 dun. This has been an interesting start to the case. Cause man, is he excited when he pretty much screws himself, I guess. I don't know.
Well, he gets excited because Von Zieks keeps saying that it was a success.
Yeah, but it's not exciting for the reason he thinks.
Yeah.
Mr. Naruhodo, what on earth were you playing at just now? Or rather, what on earth were you playing at all along? My hypothesis, my amazing hypothesis, you've been poking holes in it from the start. Ah, sorry about that, but you promised me. You said you'd prove the Drazyd explosion was an accident, not murder. You said you'd keep my precious invention from falling into anyone else's hands. But all you've done so far is try to undermine me. Yes, I did make you a promise, you're right. I said that I'd believe in you and fight for your freedom to the very end. But I also told you I was no scientist. I don't understand your hypothesis. The fact is, there's an undeniable flaw in your logic, isn't there? Ah, but if I just run through some equations... Yes, you see, it's because my work is incomplete. Perhaps it is. Nevertheless, a man died as a consequence, didn't he? Oh. Oh, no! You're right. You're so right. It's all my fault. And I have no right to blame you for my failures. I'm a disaster. Not just as a scientist, but as a human being. Well, that might be a little over the top. And while we're on the subject, what about Baroque? He's being awful. Dating this old university friend to be a murderer, you mean? He's a disaster, not just as a prosecutor, but as a human being. Oh, but no, wait. He's the Reaper, isn't he? Perhaps he's not classified as Homo sapiens anymore? Glad that's cleared up. Can I double-check something with you? Ah, yes, what? The machine and demonstration you prepared, they were based entirely on your hypothesis, I presume? There was no trickery involved. I drew the plans for the machine with my very own hands. Every line was painstakingly drawn with the firm belief that science is the only future. So yes, it's true that my hypothesis hasn't reached maturity yet, but please, Mr. Naruhodo, you must believe in me. Alright, Professor, I understand. Counsel, defendant, the prosecution's witnesses are ready to take the stand. Court is about to be in session again. Make your way into the courtroom, please. Poor guy felt betrayed at first. It all hinges on that demonstration. If the professor's hypothesis is sound as he claims, it leaves him as the only person who could possibly have killed the victim. But on the other hand, Mr. Sholmes was adamant. Practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. So really, what should I be trying to prove here? In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready for the new witnesses to testify? The prosecution is ready, my lord. As is the defense, my lord. So, Lord Von Zieks, I believe these next witnesses saw the demonstration on the day in question with their own eyes. Indeed they did. And as luck would have it, one of them is a police detective. So the testimony we are about to hear can be considered highly reliable. Perfect, a detective of all people. The prosecution's stance remains unchanged. Though it ended in tragedy, the demonstration on the day in question was scientifically sound. And consequently, the sole person with the opportunity to have committed this act of murder is the only other individual to have been present on the stage at the time, the accused. Thank you, counsel. The prosecution's position is clear, so bring forth your witnesses now. Bailiff, show the witnesses in. The witnesses whose proximity to the incident on the day in question will clarify the truth unequivocally.
What is that?
I don't know.
Why is the kid injured?
I don't know. I guess we're gonna see what they are. My name is Balthasar Loon.
Like balloon?
Wait a minute. Oh no, he's not there yet. I am the impresario of all the hot air balloons in vicinity of the experimento stage. My name is Wilhelm Gottfried Sigmunds Ormstein. I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia. I am very rich. Inspector Gina Lestrade, Scotland Yard. I'm a great detective. Even Erlach Sholmes agrees. I was on security duty at the exhibition and I got to go up in one of them balloons. It was amazing. Gina, again. But she didn't mention that she'd seen the disaster from up in a balloon, actually, didn't she? And she clearly loved every minute of it. There were 3 balloons flying near the public experimentation stage when the incident occurred. 2 of these witnesses were in one such balloon at the time and saw events unfold from the skies above. You make it sound like they were in the clouds. It was only an altitude of circa 60 feet, very low. Is he supposed to be Italian? That's why I'm doing that, because I thought he was trying to be Italian for a
Or
second.
Hispanic? Balthazar? Spain?
I don't know. I'm just doing that. I can do a bad Italian accent just because I'm Italian, so I don't know why it's so bad. But, well, you can't see nothing if you fly too high, can ya? 60 feet, about 18 meters then. Thank you for your introductions. Now you will give your formal testimony for the court. Kindly describe exactly what you witnessed. Balthasar Loon. Bohemian boy.
Why does Bohemian Boy have a mask and an injured head?
I don't know. Let me see what it says about them again. His real name is Wilhelm Guster. Kindly explain exactly what you witnessed, especially those of us who had a vantage point above the stage. It was an incidente terribile. I am only grateful that my balloons were not damaged. There's this huge bang from the stage, and then the next second another bang in the sky above us, behind us. And from amid the smoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere. The cage, it fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower. I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower. A most extraordinary collective account, I must say. Can I just clarify something? There's a detail in the witness's testimony that I've not heard any mention of until now. Specifically, that there were 2 explosions. More precisely, 2 explosions in 2 separate places, yes. When the demonstration began, the balloon carrying the 2 witnesses was around here. There were other balloons in the air nearby at the time carrying other passengers as well, to be clear. Then, as power was supplied to the machine for the demonstration, the first explosion occurred. The so-called bird cage that contained the victim disappeared from the stage, and a moment later, the second explosion occurred directly adjacent to the balloon carrying the witnesses. The bird cage appeared at the site of the explosion, subsequently to plummet down into the crystal tower. I was very surprised. Suddenly a cage appeared before my eyes with a person inside. The blast was so hot, but I didn't want to miss a thing, so I kept my eyes wide. That smile he gives. I still have lots of money. Precisely who is this curious infant? I'm told he is a young noble of Bohemian royalty. Apparently he disguised himself in order to steal unnoticed into the Great Exhibition. Ja, I am here in London on a sightseeing trip to visit my elementary school. We will have the benefit of a child's point of view in the testimony. Do we really need that? When I remove my mask, this is what I look like. Yes, I see a delightful face, I'm sure. Ja, everybody says so. Great disguise, then. The point is, the testimony of these witnesses further substantiates the facts for the court, namely that despite ending in an explosion, instantaneous kinesis was successfully demonstrated. And furthermore, that until the arrival of the police, no one approached the crystal tower where the victim fell. Therefore, only the accused, who was with Mr. Aspen on the stage, could have possibly committed the murder. Yes, thank you, counsel. The prosecution's views on the matter are quite clear. So, the defense's cross-examination now, please. Yes, my lord. There was an incident terribly. I gave my balloons were not damaged. There were 3 balloons flying above the experimentation stage at the time, I understand. See. All 3 of them, my Bellissimi Bambini. That's Italian. They are very popular, signor. Wait, what? Some people will pay £10 for one ride. £10? That's more than my annual stipend. £20 a month. That is my pocket money. Royals have all the luck. I got up there for free, I did. Played the old I worked for Her Majesty's police card, you know. Detectives have all the luck. If they're so popular, why would you only be operating such a small number of balloons, though? Because if I have too many in the skies, they could crash into each other. The operators for the balloons were decided by lots, with each operator manning a particular area. C, and the zone above public experimentation stage is the most profitable. The other impresarios, they hate me. Thank you, witness. I think the court has a clear picture of the arrangements for balloon rides at the exhibition. Perhaps you could hear more about what you actually witnessed of the incident. Right. I can feel you there, my lord.
Hold it!
So you actually saw the accident happen from up in the air. Yep, isn't it amazing what a detective gets to do, eh? I'm telling you, Odo, being a lawyer is a mug's game. You should join the force and we can go flying together. Aw, she invited us. See, this is why I like her. You know me so well. Yes, well, anyway, could you tell us exactly what you saw, do you think? Everything. We saw everything, 'cause we were up above it all. The dodgy cove climbing into that cage, and the dodgy professor pulling all them levers. And that's when it happened. That's when there was that massive bang and the cage disappeared just like that. You were describing the moment the subject's body was decomposed by the electricity, I believe. I didn't know what to make of it, but then there was another bang right at my ear. I looked round, and there was a huge great fireball right next to us in the sky, and there was nothing there before.
Excuse me!
Master Gotts, does your memory of the day differ? My teacher at elementary school said that when you meet someone for the first time, you should always use their first name. Yes, what was it again? Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund Ormstein. Just the 4 names, then? The point is, do you have something to say? Something to add in response to Detective Gina Lestrade's last remark, perhaps? Boy, get it right, Odo, it's Inspector Lestrade. Why does everyone have a problem with how I dress them at the moment? That is not what I saw. Oh? Yeah, there was a second explosion and it was right behind our balloons. That is true. But I'm sure, which is what I said, isn't it? One minute there was nothing there, the next a massive explosion. My teacher at elementary school said that when someone else is speaking, if you are rude enough to interrupt, you will have the most awful life imaginable. Are all Bohemians brought up to be so full of joy?
It's polite when he wants a balloon.
Yes, he is. And that guy smiles like crazy giving it to him. Just before the second explosion happened next to our balloon, I clearly witnessed a green balloon flying in the sky. A green balloon? Hey, you what? I never saw nothing like that. Well, I did. I saw it, and you can't say I didn't. I will complain to the council. I will cry and scream. My testimony is the truth. I am Bohemian Prince. You could not say it's a lie. That is not allowed. Just playing the bleeding royalty card, are ya? Typical. Says the orphan who likes to remind people she works for Her Majesty's police. In that case, young man, I must ask you to amend your formal testimony in the interest of cordial national relations between Great Britain and Bohemia. It was not the skies that exploded. It was a green balloon that was next to ours at the time.
Hold it! Hold it!
A green balloon, you say? Are you sure about that? Of course I am sure. I am a proud Bohemian prince. All these questions... The thing we saw, that must be it. Yeah. I think that green thing we found was is part of the balloon. Okay, since you're falling asleep...
What was the last thing you said?
It was not the skies that exploded, it was a green balloon that was next to ours at the time. And the thing is, that's the thing, we have that green piece here. So that must have been it. And these questions are making me boring. I think you mean bored. Ash, English is very annoying. The language of my countrymen is far superior. Ragazzo, it is very wrong to lie. Lie? Flying balloons never explode, for the same reason the planets never explode. It is logical. Please tell me that doesn't mean logical. If you insult me, you insult all of Bohemia. Madai, I will have the army come and shoot all of your stupid balloons out of the sky, all of them. Here you are, Your Highness. If only all international incidents were so easily resolved. Now that peaceful relations have been restored here in the courtroom, perhaps we could return to the testimony. Did you also see the moment that the cage materialized, Mr. Loon? No, I did not see esplosione myself, however. Okay, save. Yeah, because if you're tired, we need you up and at 'em when we come back. Only an hour? You promised me 90 minutes. Well, you'll have to make it up to me. Yeah, you can say that all you want. You'll have to make it up. Alright, well, thank you for watching, and hopefully we do it at an earlier time next time.